Hey everybody, and welcome to another instalment of Board Games Hitting My Table. So in this series I take a look at all of the board games that I've played over the last couple of weeks. This episode covering the first half of February 2023. Now before I get started on the games, I want to give a shout out to the show's sponsor, KIENDA.co.uk, who are my go-to online retailer when it comes to picking up board games here in the UK. And if you use my link in the show notes or the QR code, then you can get 5% off your first order. But let's start with the games, and we're going to start with my favourite game of all time, with El Grande. So I've actually played El Grande twice this last couple of weeks, which funnily enough, I haven't played this game for a long time, and you know, two games come along at once. So I played a 4-player game with the traditional rules. I've taught this to 2 new gamers, had a very tight game. A micro decision changed the outcome by manipulating this mobile scoreboard, which changes the points of a region. If you don't know what El Grande is, it's kind of the classic area control game. And the second game we played a 3-player game, which I have to say is suboptimal, but we played using the King's Intrigue expansion rules, which kind of bypasses one of the mechanisms in the game where normally you have to bid for initiative order, whereas this version kind of puts all the actions and the initiative order on one card. So it doesn't change the gameplay too much, but I have to admit I do prefer the original base version of the game. You know, despite being still great, you know, with the King's Intrigue expansion, it's still like a 9.5 out of 10. With the base rules, this is a perfect 10, no doubt about that. But yeah, love these games. You know, definitely a good experience to always go back and play your favourites and remind yourself as to why they are your favourite games of all time. So yeah, if you don't know El Grande, check it out. It still holds up beautifully. It's the best area control game out there, and I adore it. So that is El Grande. We also played a 4-player game of Vegetable Stock. So this is a very simple little commodity speculation game. This one seems to be getting a little bit of buzz now because I think the Dice Tower did a review of it and kind of spread awareness of it. But I've been talking about how good this game is for a couple of months now. Really nice game. I taught this to a complete non-gamer, and I don't know if they were too impressed, but still I enjoyed the gameplay of it. Very fast, very snappy. Just drafting cards and then change the value of the different things you're collecting. Yeah, really nice one. That is Vegetable Stock. Played I think it was a 6-player game of Skull. So this is another game that I haven't played for quite some time. So Skull is kind of a bluffing game as you're trying to kind of lure people into flipping over these coasters, or you can try to bid to see how many coasters you can flip over before revealing a skull. It's actually a very simple game, but I do like it quite a lot. And in terms of like a full-on almost bar style game, this one is a really good option. You can teach this one to next to anybody. It feels like a kind of folk game, if you want to put it that way. And I actually managed to pick up a win on this one by taking quite a big risk, and I flipped all those coasters over without revealing a skull. So yeah, I really like this one. Nice party game that you can teach to almost anybody. And yeah, I really like it. So that is Skull. I also played 2 games of District Noir, a 2-player game that I've been really raving about recently. And it's good news, this one is going to be more widely available in England and America soon. So that's nice to know, because I think this game could really blow up if more people knew about it. But this is kind of a set collection game with this really cool mechanism as you're managing this hand of cards, playing them in a row between you two, or you can pick up the last 5 cards in that row. And you're trying to build up these sets to try and get the majorities to get points, but you're also getting just pure points or even negative points. And I love this sudden death mechanism where if you are the first player or the only player to collect 3 of these buildings, then you'll instantly win the game. And that played a big part in the games that we played. Now, I taught this to somebody, it went down really well, and we wanted to play it back to back. I had some really cool little decisions that came into play here, as you know, my opponent had 2 buildings. I needed to get one of them to stop them from winning instantly, and that managed to play out and really change the way the game played out. I also managed to force my opponent to take loads of negative cards, because it's just a really interesting way in that you have to kind of push your luck and do I want to keep on playing and maybe take better cards, or maybe kind of shoot myself on the foot and get worse cards. Really like this one. That is District Noir. Played a classic game of 6 Nymphed. Love this one. Very simple, fast Wolfgang Kramer little card game. Also played a 3-player game of Caesar's Empire. So I taught this to 2 new gamers who'd never played the game before. And yeah, it went down really well. At least I thought it did. I love this little kind of route building and set collection game. Very simple rule set, but some good decisions. And I think we all kind of went for a different route. I kind of went for one area of the board that had loads of coins there, where I could keep on kind of getting double points for my routes, because if you collect these coins, you get double score basically. Some of my opponents managed to get a really long chain and keep on, compounding their scores. And one player really went for that diversity of getting all the different tokens. And it ended up being a really close game. I think I just about squeezed the win, but I definitely know it left a good impression on those two players. And I think even one of them wanted to pick up a copy for themselves, because I really think this is just a really cool evergreen game that's going to be around for a long time to come. And it keeps on hitting my table, which is always a good sign. So that is Caesar's Empire. Played a 3-player game of Clover, very classic, well, almost like a modern classic party game here, as you are putting these cards down, writing clues in between these two word cards, and trying to help your opponents guess where, or the particular order or the specific order where these cards were placed on this Clover board. I think this one might have been the most difficult orientation of cards I've ever had. Some of these words were not going together at all, and we managed to do all right considering, but still I like this one. It's always kind of a go-to game for me when it comes to the end of a game's day. You've got 30 minutes to spare, and always get a good game of Clover in. We played a 3-player game of the Chamber of Wonders. So this game is overproduced, to say the least. I mean, it's a huge box here, as you can see. And the game itself is very light. It's a simple set collection game where you're trying to collect these cards and play them out on these kind of display boards in front of you. Now, you always have the same cards available every game, even though there are lots of different variations of the actual worker placement spots you can go to. And I quite like this idea that you're forced to play cards and you only have 6 available spots, and then you have to buy an extra 3 spots should you want to, because it's only 9 rounds in the game and it goes really quickly. But the issue with this game is that there's so many bits, as in physical components. It takes like 20 minutes to set up, and the game takes about 15 minutes. So I think sometimes that's a bit of a red flag for me, and it kind of stops games getting to the table. And I think it's a little bit samey, and some of these mini games where you go to are better than the others. I think the ones we chose this time were not terribly interesting. There's a lot of luck involved. And yeah, that definitely plays a huge part in the game, because I think I won the game simply because I top decked the right card at the right time. So yeah, this one I'm not terribly impressed on. I mean, it looks nice. The production itself, the actual physical components, are a little bit cheap, but hey, it's fine. It's just a bit too fussy for what it actually is. But that is Chamber of Wonders. Really happy to get a game of Bonfire back to the table. So I've been meaning to play this one for a long time, and one of my favourite Feld games, and definitely a reminder as to why I like this one so much. So yeah, we played a 3-player game of this one. Played it with my brother and my mum, who'd never played it before. And she actually ended up really liking it, despite appreciating it's quite a difficult game to manage. And she did extremely well for her first game, at least way better than I did for my first couple of games. And normally I'm really bad at this game. I always bite off more than I can chew. And this game we had was very close. Now, I went for some quite simple missions. I think I got 1 or 2 of the red missions done. And I was so close to kind of ascending one of my spirits, which kind of go along these roads that you build. And yeah, I didn't quite pull that one off. But I love the actual kind of pacing and tempo of this game, because it kind of starts off quite slow as you start to try and piece this puzzle together and thinking which missions are going to help other missions, which helpers you need, all this kind of stuff. But as the game goes on, you can start stringing these missions together and start ascending all your little helpers and getting really powerful bonuses. I also managed to grab one of these really powerful cards straight away and really kind of try to abuse that as much as possible. Where normally where you go to this bonfire, you get like 2 out of 3 of these bonuses, which can be like new action tokens or these portals, which are really powerful, or a resource. And I managed to have a card that let me take all 3 rather than just 2. And that really did help me big time. And I mean, it meant that I always had enough resources in my supply to do what I wanted to do. But yeah, I love Feld games. This one is just an absolute brilliant one. And I'm really happy to get that back to the table. That is Bonfire. We played a game of Mackoji. So I always talk about how I used to play this game so often, and I actually got really good at this game at one point. I kind of knew what to do in every situation, and when I go back to this after a long kind of break, all my skills seem to completely deteriorate and I'm back to square one. So I actually played this game with my brother, and despite us playing most games together, we very rarely play two-player games with each other. So we had a bit of time we spent playing only two-player games, and this is one that we just thought it went down so well. And I think we went into the second round of the game. I managed to get, I think it was 4 of the helpers, or 4 of the geisha girls, and he got the, I think it's 11 or 12 charm points. And so they're kind of 2 victory points, but the charm points just about trump having the 4 geishas. So it was as close as it could possibly get, but still love this one. It's one of the best 2-player games ever made. That is Mackoji. And on that same session, we played a game of Air, Land and Sea. A very close game again. I think I managed to win the first round with a pure smashing victory, getting 6 points. He won the second round, getting 6 points. Then I had to concede the third round and not give too many points away. But then sadly, I didn't win the fourth round either. But we played with a hybrid of the base game and the Spies, Lies and Supplies expansion. So I think we played with, I think it was C, it was Intelligence, and one of the other new ones as well. So it was always nice that you can kind of mix and match the different modules in the game, and it all plays well. They all synergize with each other perfectly, and you can pick and choose for a bit more kind of variation. But yeah, this one normally would be the kind of game I'd like, because I don't tend to like games with tons of special rules and things like that. But this one just somehow works. It's such a concise little package, and it really is a triumph of the design. So that is Air, Land and Sea. We played a 4-player game of Lock. So this one I picked up, well, actually had it provided to me semi-recently by the designer. And it did really well on my, my top 10 or my 10 games ranked series. I think it came up middle of the table, considering this is a very kind of a standard almost kind of word association party game, but somehow it just fits this sweet spot for me where it's so easy to play, easy to teach. It's got some good words in there. It puts you under pressure. There's good little things to add a little bit of life into the game and kind of change each round on its head and give you a little special rule. So yeah, if you like party games and you play with your family and things who maybe aren't necessarily gamers, then Lock is a really nice one to try. So yeah, we played 2 games of this one. And I think we did okay, because we always play this cooperatively rather than competitively. But still, there's always room for improvement with these word association games. Also played a 4-player game. It might even be two 4-player games of Rapido. So this is the reprint of Escape by Rune Stones, and it's his push your luck game, almost like Can't Stop, as you're trying to roll different or high numbers basically, and secure yourself on this step here. And if you're still on that step by the time it gets back to you, because people can kick you off, then you'll go up that number of steps on the staircase. Or if you roll doubles, you'll instantly go up the staircase here. This is actually becoming one of my favorite dice games, and I think it's actually just broken into my top 100 for the first time. So I really like this one. I don't know what it is. There's something special about it. And it just kind of hits this sweet spot for me for a dice-driven filler. So much fun. It actually adds some really tense races and can have you on the edge of your seat, especially towards the end of the race. As not only can you help yourself, you can actively try to stop other players, which is not normally the case in these type of games. So that is Rapido. There's a few games I played that I don't physically have here. So we played a 3-player game of Ethnos, another game that I did like, that I played pretty recently for the first time. We played with a different orientation of characters. A really close game again. I can't quite remember the races and stuff we used, but I actually do quite like this game. It has a nice drafting mechanism, nice and fast and punchy turns, and yeah, I'm quite impressed. That is Ethnos. And we also played a 2-player game of Rune Stones. I haven't played Rune Stones for probably a year and a half or so. This is a Rudiger Dawn deck building game, as you are collecting these cards and then using those cards to combine with each other, where you get rid of the higher number card, but you get the abilities on both of these cards. You're collecting gems, then you're collecting these rune stones, which will give you strong kind of ongoing engine building benefits. And it's kind of a race to get to a certain number of points. I think the game came down to 2 points in the end, so again, another very close game. But I do like this one. I think maybe my only issue with it is that kind of towards the beginning of the game at least, you are just buying cards for the sake of it, just filling up your hand and padding your deck out without too much rhyme or reason. And I think you can't really go wrong with that. So you kind of tend to just spend all these things and buy the cheapest cards available just so you have more and more options, and then just keep spamming them together to try and get those gems. So it feels a little bit of like going through the motions at times, but I think maybe if you did play a bit more meticulously, you'd probably do better. But it seems like you can just buy what's available and still do quite well. But I don't want that to sound negative, because I do actually think this game is very clever and somewhat overlooked. And we also played a 2-player game of Fantasy Realms. So Fantasy Realms is a game that I used to have in my own collection, but I did get rid of it because the scoring was a little bit tedious at times, because you'd have to very meticulously go through all your cards and see what they scored. But there is an app out there now which helps, or is a fantastic app that calculates all your scoring instantly with very little work. And yeah, I do like this one. I was on the fence of getting this one back into my collection, but after playing it again, I don't really feel like I need to, because obviously I do have it accessible to me. I like it, but I don't love it. It plays nice and quickly. There's some cool combos, but I do find it a little bit, I don't know, onerous or a bit too laborious at times in order to work out your scores as you go, as well as at the end. So that is Fantasy Realms. I do like it. I think it's a very good filler game, and I can certainly see why it's so popular. But yeah, maybe one that I can play regularly but not own for myself. And I didn't have a great combo of cards this time, and my opponents managed to pull off quite a good win there. And the final game that I've played is a 3-player game of Samurai. Another game that, since I've acquired this one, it's hitting the table regularly. Very pure, abstract area control style game, as you are surrounding these different kind of monuments on the board with these tokens that you have. And then you're trying to get 2 out, or the majority of 2 out of 3 of these monuments. And if that doesn't happen, then you want to be the player with the most of 1 type. So it's actually quite a difficult scoring mechanism to try and manage in your head, because you kind of have to remember what your opponents have gone for. So it normally does come down to a very small margin of error. But I do like this one. There's some really cool little tricks you can do to move tokens around and try to prioritize things and make tokens score towards a number of these cities and towns rather than just one. Very clever game, and it certainly holds up well. And you know, this will be good to have a reprint out there to make it more available again, and I'm sure that will happen, because these games by Knizia are really timeless. So that's it, really. That's all the games that I've been playing over the last couple of weeks. Had a good couple of weeks. Played some fantastic games, you know, got some new ones played, and which I'll obviously share with you, and also some old favourites such as, you know, Bonfire and El Grande as well. So if you have enjoyed the video, please be sure to hit like and subscribe to my channel, and check out my other content too. And for everybody else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye bye.